I am Drew. Hello.
I am Chris. Hello.
I am Matt. Hello.
I am Stacy. Hello.
Awesome. I'll cut that in at the beginning. So we watched episode 1 of The West Wing pilot. I guess first of all, so I've seen the West Wing many times. I've watched all of The West Wing many times. I believe Stacy is partway through watching it.
I'm almost to season 3.
Right. And Chris and Matt have both not seen it before, right?
Yes.
Not seen it before. Watched episode 1, Mr. Pilot.
Sorry, you missed the pilot?
No, Mr. Pilot.
Mr. Pilot.
The episode, Mr. Pilot.
You're calling it Mr. Pilot. Okay.
What about Captain? Mr. Captain.
Pilot?
We watched,
how did you do that?
We watched Mr. Pilot. So, I mean, first of all, what did you think of it?
It's of its time. It's 1999.
Yeah.
So heavy-handed on the music. I know it's a superficial thing, but it was one of those things that it did sort of. That's also very piloty, though, isn't it? So I don't know. Maybe it does or doesn't carry on through. I'm undecided about whether or not I like it because a lot of the characters, they seem very caricatype of a lot of like that people from that time. Like there are a lot of that kind of dialogue. You've seen it in a lot of stuff, like films and stuff.
Like I mean, that's that kind of dialogue.
Sarcastic, snarky.
That dialogue, like fast talking, smart people dialogue. That's Sorkin's like whole deal. So if you don't like that,
Sorkin's whole thing. Yeah,
you're in for some
not
punishment.
Gonna have a good time.
Now, the question I have is: are we supposed to like these people?
Yeah.
Are they supposed to be likable people?
Yeah.
Some of them.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got to bear in mind this is the. I mean, pilots. The way that pilots. Pilots are written over like a period of weeks or months, right? Whereas the episodes when they come out, like very different. So a lot more went into this. Also, it's introducing the characters. I think like the opening vignettes where you get like.
That's what all pilots are, though, just like showing you who these people are, and then the story will carry after that.
Yeah,
there's a lot that happens. Yeah, there's a lot that happens in this episode.
Well, so I think it's mostly introducing you to the characters. I think it does a really good job. Like the little vignettes at the start, like they're really nice. You get to see you get a glimpse into their characters of each one.
Yeah, it's interesting that they laid the groundwork before Martin Sheen came on. I don't know how much Martin Sheen I knew he was. I'm sure. Like I knew there was going to be some kind of unveiling. I didn't know it was Martin Sheen. I know very little about The West Wing.
Same.
I think I've seen like memes and various bits and pieces. So I wasn't like knocked off my chair. Oh, Martin Sheen, massive surprise! Like he's very expected. Some like you'd expect someone like Martin Sheen to have that role, but yeah, no, it's interesting. So they laid the foundation. So it'd be interesting. They didn't really cover much to do with Martin Sheen, and
well, the original idea for the show was that the president was not a recurring character, or not a regular character. The president was not supposed to be in it as much as he ended up being, or at least that's what they say about it. It was supposed to be about the people working in the West Wing, not the president. But people enjoyed Sheen's performance of the president so much that he's in it more than they intended. And honestly, I think I enjoy Martin Sheen's a great actor. He plays that character excellently. But I think it probably would have been a better show if it had concentrated more on the West Wing and less on the president.
Okay. Yeah.
Interesting.
It makes sense that he's in the scene that he's in, because showing like how the characters respect him and what he does at the end, and how that sort of just appeared like a normal day for him. Like he left and it was like, okay, what else is on the schedule for today, right? It's like he knows what is going down and how to handle it, and also how to be honest about the fact that he was angry when he rode his bicycle.
He has the best introductory line. I am the Lord your God. Like you can't enter a show with a better line than that.
Yeah, he's done. He knows his stuff. They're like arguing over what the commandment is. They don't even know what the commandment is.
That's silly though. I mean, it sets up the cool line, but the idea that a prominent right wing evangelical Christian wouldn't know the order of the commandments. Right, I don't buy that, but it's setting up the line. It's fine.
Yeah. Also, but also like it's that is. I mean, that's political satire, isn't it? Like it's making fun of the fact that there are a lot of like should we say, people of your gun-toting, Bible-holding persuasion that may very well make a big deal about that being part of their identity, but actually it's just,
I think it's I get you, but I think it's satirizing the wrong thing. Like also the so there's the evil evangelical Christians come to the White House, and then there's one good one that Leo's talking to earlier, right? And it's like don't lump me together with these. The idea that there's a right-wing evangelical Christian who's a goodie. There's no good right-wing evangelical Christians. He's the one we're friends with.
But that, I mean, that's like I can see why you thought like a look back on the West Wing would be an interesting idea, because like I don't know how much that perspective would have been different in 1999, which is what I believe the year came out. So that would be like the last year of Clinton, right? Am I thinking?
A few more years left.
Yeah.
Well, it's the year of Clinton's impeachment hearings,
right? Yeah,
which is interesting.
So is Martin Sheen like a Clinton-esque neoliberal?
I don't think he's meant to be like based off of Clinton himself. I think he's got Christian values, but with a democratic view of it.
He's definitely
Clinton.
So he's definitely he's a 90s Democrat. He's a third way Clinton-esque, Blair-esque third way Democrat who's completely capitulated to the right on economics. Like, I mean, this will be more evident throughout the show. Like on economic issues, they are on the right. In American terms. On social issues, left when they can do it without making the press dislike them. It's very conciliatory. Very like it's a left.
Yeah.
An American left in retreat and giving way to the right, I think. And it's the left. This is why I think it's interesting to look back on it. It's the left, or it's the liberal left, that paves the way for Trump. Absolutely.
You didn't hide the moral of that story behind anything, did you?
I mean, that's
they were words.
That's my view of it. But I think, go on.
It feels a little bit like that era of political leaders. Your New Labour, your Clinton Democrat, feels a little bit like was it this like the president being a bit of a TV show guest type of thing coming in now. There was a little, they like not quite as show busy as maybe more recent years, but it was like the coming in of like is it like the television president type of thing, or has that been around for a long time since then?
I think it's been around a little bit, but what this is probably what you're talking about is like this is the era where liberals, or Labour Party in the UK, like it's all about message. They believe politics is all, and that's where you get that the Ed Miliband clip where he's in an interview and he just keeps repeating the soundbite and he looks absurd. Just the sound, like no matter what the question, just repeating the soundbite. It's that era of politics. So like stay on message. There's one, like the media, people are idiots. The media's only going to pay attention if we just say one thing and say it over and over and over again. It's that very tight control of the message and that mediatized politics, which I think people have. That's part of, again, I think why Trump is popular, because he's very much not that.
Yeah. See, that's So it is kind of interesting to see, because I don't know if that kind of way would necessarily be as like. I feel like today we're all more cynical. It felt like there was also a lot of like around this time, a lot of like what you might think of as bipartisan comedy shows. King of the Hill being like, they say one of the ones, the best shows this off. Like and it does seem like there's a little bit of like, that's the moment before you either make content that sits to one side of the culture war or the other, right?
Well, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, King of the Hill. Yeah, he was. Like Hank Hill in his heart is a Democrat who votes Republican, right? But I think what characterizes like present day political stuff is it's cynical about the process. not necessarily polarized in terms of its views, but it sees the whole process as like, I mean, Trump's going to come into this a lot, but you can't really be that optimistic about the presidency anymore, as an institution.
See, but Bartlett, his character, made me very optimistic about like his fake presidency. Like, I think I told you my one of my most popular TikToks is when I watched the pilot for The West Wing, and I was like, I will follow that man to the end of the earth. Like, he has my vote all the time.
That's interesting because you see very little of him in the first episode. What is it that
the first episode? But the moment that like he just popped in and told those people off, I was like, hell yeah, get it. And then just went about his day. I was like, I will follow that man anywhere. And I see why his staff loves him so much.
Yeah.
Because he's charismatic. He's not a jerk. Like, not really. Like, there's points in future where he's kind of a butt. But it's kind of everything that president could be if they tried. Like, I would say like the closest to a president that I've voted for that I would follow forever would have been Obama.
Yeah,
no, so it's kind of like that, like the charismatic, like I will stand by that man forever.
There were people working in the Obama West Wing who talked about the West Wing, the TV show, as like an inspiration for them, like getting into politics and see the characters in the West Wing as models. So I don't think that's entirely just like a coincidence. Like, obviously, Bartlett wasn't inspired by Obama because he came afterwards, but I think Obama in some ways was inspired by the West Wing.
By Bartlett? I mean, that would make sense because I was very, like, as I told you guys in the text, I was like, the first episode is going to make you feel patriotic for a country you two don't live in. And it's like, it's going to be like, yeah, because Bartlett is just great. Like, just that one scene of him telling everyone off.
I mean, he totally solved the situation. He didn't argue. He just solved the situation. He's like, we're gonna address the fringe. We're gonna address the fringe group. Shun the non-believers. Get rid of them. Like, we're gonna address them. Don't give them attention. And then he's like, I'm out. That's all.
We're done.
He's like,
just came
we're not gonna sit here and argue.
Put out the fire, and that was it.
Solve the problem. Move on.
The thesis of the show really is it's an intentionally, like, knowingly optimistic view of politics, right? Even for I mean, the 90s was kind of an optimistic time in politics. I think there was a general sense that we were on the right track. On social issues, we're definitely going the right way. Economic stuff that's later turned out to be in question, but there was a feeling of a positivity and optimism. But like, I don't imagine any White House was actually this good. This nice, but this is Sorkin imagining like an idealized version of a White House that reflects his politics, I would say.
Yeah.
But in the 90s, it was pretty bipartisan. The politics here in the U.S. They were pretty bipartisan. It didn't really start branching off until stuff with George W. Like, I mean, like, people were working together to get stuff done in the House and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It didn't really start breaking off until Bush. Although the first Bush messed things up too, but people still worked with him.
I think that was a symptom of like post 9/11 things. Post 9/11 is what I think began like the real polarization of not even necessarily in terms of policy, but like the Republicans and Democrats, being seen as like enemies rather than opponents or something like that.
It could be. I mean, maybe switching on the Hadron Particle Accelerator did something.
You think we split it?
Didn't that happen around this time?
There's also voter suppression going on.
But the way Stacey reacted to Bartlett is not. So from what you're saying, Chris, that's not how you received these people and Bartlett in particular.
I felt that they were very like, and maybe time has tempered this a little bit, but maybe not. But like, it felt very much like a manipulated reaction. You go, oh, we're going to bring in this Democrat strongman character played by, of course, like Martin Sheen, who, he's got the chops for that role. Like, it's a very, like, easy to do. Give him some pseudo, like, talking points that feel good mantras and stuff like that. Show him to be tough on the bad guys for a little bit, and like, it just felt very guided into this. Oh, you're supposed to you're supposed to feel the.
I
the
mean,
way
that is
Stacey
again
does.
Sorkin. There's not much. Sorkin is very like a preachy writer. He's writing a lot of characters that are just like smart versions of himself. Like, and he just sets up arguments
Yeah.
for him to win. Right. That
Yeah,
is
I
that
mean,
is the style.
this could end up being a show I end up hating, but like
Yeah.
I enjoy hating it almost. If you know what I mean.
Like a
I
hate
don't
watch
like-
parade.
Like a little. I mean, it deserves a little bit more credit than that. But it's like I don't like. I might not like any of the characters. I might not like the politics that it glamorizes. I might not even like really like a lot of the culture in the late 90s / early 2000s. I don't know. There might be stuff that I roll my eye. I can imagine there being a lot of stuff that I roll my eyes at. It feels very liberal, like very liberally.
Yeah.
Um,
and it's to put it in in an American sense, liberal is left, right? But in a broader sense, they are liberal rather than left. They're not of the left. They are liberal.
yes, they're like a little bit like don't rock the boat liberal, status quo liberal. We want nice things, but let's do it at a bit by bit.
It's funny that you're getting all this from the pilot because, I mean, that's a lot of my frustration with, the politics as it's depicted in the show is their unwillingness to rock the boat to get shit done. Like, there's times when they could do something, really positive, really progressive, but they're like, oh no, the media won't like it or the Senate won't like it. We back off from that.
Yeah, like a gradual way instead of a more ambitious. Yeah.
Because it's well, it's like that Martin Luther King letter, isn't it?
Birmingham jail.
Where it's like the real. Yes, it is Birmingham jail letter. Yeah.
Oh, it's oh, I know what you're talking about. It's like outright radicalism is less frustrating than lukewarm acceptance or something like that. Not frustrating, but more respectful than like lukewarm acceptance and apathy of what's actually happening.
Yeah. It's basically it's like
it's Aaron Burr. It's Aaron Burr versus what Hamilton did.
It's like, the thing. It's like the biggest obstacle for civil rights progression is it's the sort of the white liberal that's like both sidesing it. Like that's the
I mean,
won't take a side.
Not to get too far down my personal bias political wormhole, but like every time fascism's emerged, it was liberals who enabled it. Liberals would rather have a fascist than an actual leftist. It's proven recently with Sanders and Corbyn.
I don't know. That's a whole can of worms, and because I think a little bit was really like rich people. I think rich people. I think you can. I think you can have liberals that would slide down the left side of that slope, but the richer you are, the less you're going to want to bring in policies that in any way.
I think liberals find leftists upset for reasons I can't quite get my head around. Liberals are more frightened of the left than they are of the far right. I think maybe because the left represents a more complete version of what they're representing, and that that kind of almost embarrasses them. But why weren't you doing this?
I don't know. I feel a little bit of is that liberals are just incrementalists. They're just like the status quo, but a little bit better, really. And maybe you might draw privilege into this and thinking that, well, if they're doing all right, then things can't be that bad. But a little bit better, a little bit more rights for people down there. But only if everyone's okay with it, we're not.
Well, I think fundamentally liberals believe in the market as the governing entity of capital, and leftists don't. That's the fundamental split, and liberals aren't willing to cross that line.
Do you count social democrats as liberals?
They're kind of right on the borderline, right?
Is it that's where one meets t'other, right?
Yeah, the border lines between social democrats and democratic socialists, right?
Well, I suppose. I mean, if you want to go down by like the EU Parliament designation, you've got liberals and social democrats, and then European Free Alliance.
Yeah,
on the left, it goes in that order on the left side, as it were. So there's a literal, distinction right there. So, but the social democrats are not like they're not like, for example, on the Nordic Green left, which is like probably the furthest left group, unless there's something
in mainstream, in elected politicians. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
speaking
even
of, like,
then, yeah.
speaking of lefty things, the representation in The West Wing is terrible.
Yes, I did notice that.
You've got like 5 white men, a white woman.
Yeah.
Later on, they realize we don't have a main black character. Let's get a main black character on. But like even so, it's and this is it's coming out during the Clinton White House, which was, compared to the West Wing, a relatively diverse White House in terms of people of color and queer people.
Oops.
Yeah, I think.
Indeed.
So go, Stacey. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying, oops, indeed.
Yeah, I think so, again. I mean, my read is that's a blind spot for liberals.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's very much. I think The West Wing is very much like Star Trek in a lot of ways, but particularly in this, it's this humanist liberal idea, idealized idea of how things can be. But then on in terms of social progressiveness, representation, and that. I mean, in the original Star Trek, you've got Uhura, who is a black woman who's member of the bridge crew on this very important spaceship, right? That's cool. And then her job is to answer the phone. It's like, so close.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Oh, something got it. Yeah.
And you've got in this you've got you got these you got the male characters, and then you've got CJ, who, like, a big sort of personal plot point for her is like inability to do her job and have a man, kind of thing, which is very, it's a sexist trope.
Yeah.
Well,
it's like, yeah.
To be fair,
like
the man in question,
but literally
related to the job.
That's fair. But her introductory vignette is literally about how hard it is to meet a man and how she's like, this clumsy kind of awkward social person.
Oh god, yeah. That's.
I love her.
Like...
I think she's great.
I love her early on. We'll see.
Yeah.
See how it goes later. But I mean, in that vignette, she literally face plants. Hard. That was a good stunt.
Hard. Okay, so there's CJ. What did you guys think of Josh?
Josh.
What is your opinion on Josh Lyman, Bradley Whitford's character?
Is he the old hand type of guy? Is he the old hand character? He's
the workaholic.
He's the one who he wakes up
at his desk.
He wakes up at his desk. Yeah.
He wakes up at his desk. Yeah. You were in the same suit you wore the previous day.
No, I love that little bit because they're both wearing the same suit for very different reasons, and that's just left unsaid. And I think that's kind of cute.
Looking him up.
Google him. Google
They're all
West Wing Josh
to some degree. Like they all.
Well, I've got IMDb here.
Chris is going to be like, I don't remember him.
I'm just trying to remember
which is sad because Josh Lyman's the best. It's Bradley Whitford, the jerk from not Happy Gilmore. It's the other one.
I don't know.
Caddyshack?
Billy Madison.
Oh, right.
There's a lot of walk and talk scenes in this too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like rolling
camera
shots.
Aaron
and stuff.
Sorkin's the one that did that though. Like that all is from Aaron Sorkin. That's how it came to be. It's because he's like, you know what? Yeah, we're just gonna follow them with the camera, and they're gonna do their thing.
And this was kind of a turning point in TV. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff that Aaron Sorkin necessarily invented but introduced. But this is kind of the era when TV was starting to be like a serious medium for the first time. I think you got TV shows that were considered artistic works or something like that, which is fairly new. I think in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think if you
want, there's a lot of family sitcoms, like situational sitcoms that were out in the 90s, and nothing like super serious except for like ER,
police procedurals, and yeah. I guess I think ER was probably part of that as well. ER was a serious show. I think before that, if you wanted to make worthy TV, you did a miniseries. There weren't many
and it wouldn't be on network television. It would be on like HBO or Showtime or something like that. Yeah. Like something that not everyone had access to, like they do now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Do you know who Josh is yet, Chris?
Is IMDb helping you enough?
Josh.
So Josh is the
Like,
one
kind
who makes the gap. We should probably talk about the plot a little bit. So Josh has been on a
Yeah.
TV show with these right-wing evangelicals, and
Oh right, yeah.
Your
Okay,
God's
made a
been
quip.
the
yeah,
God
the
tax
fact-
the
Yeah.
God tax fraud comment.
which
Yeah.
is an awful. It's not a funny line. That's one of the sad
No.
things about this episode. If it was a funnier line, you would sympathize way more.
Yeah, it's
The God you pray to is too busy being indicted for tax fraud. It's like, dang.
jab jab.
Yeah,
Tax fraud.
Possibly, yeah. I kind of sympathised with him a little bit on that one, actually. Yeah, like host group. Now, what's his position in the White House again? He's not like chief.
He's deputy chief of staff. So Leo McGarry, the older dude, he's chief of staff, which is the closest way.
Right, yeah.
He's the mediator between
Or just below him.
the president and everybody else.
Mhm.
Yeah, Bradley Whitford, Josh Lyman's job is to like mobilize the forces they need to mobilize to get shit done. You know, the Senate, the House, the media to an extent.
Yeah.
Lobby interest groups and stuff like that.
What does Toby Ziegler do?
He is a communications director, so
Yeah,
he's
communications.
largely. I think this varies White House to White House, but in the West Wing, he's mainly a speechwriter, a policy. What's the word? What's the word for people who talk to the president and influence them? There's a word for that.
Advisors?
Advisor, yeah.
Advisor.
He's an advisor.
Oh my
Policy
God,
advisor and
yeah.
speechwriter, I'd say, yeah.
Okay.
And
He's
him
the
and
one that-
Sam
he's
kind
the
of
one
like share
points
that
out
job.
He's the one that
Speechwriting.
points out that anti-Semitism comment, right?
Yeah,
Toby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toby.
yeah. I think Aaron Sorkin's got a good. It's got a good, like, yeah. The fact that there's no representation in this show, and yet he's got such a sharp eye for anti-Semitism, I think speaks to the need for representation. Actually, because Aaron Sorkin was brought up Jewish, so he personal experience, he can see that. But like the fact that there's not a single black main character bypassed him,
Yeah.
or people of color in general. You know.
Although that being said, I mean, again, 1999.
Yeah,
That's probably like I'm not excusing it by saying it's part of the course, but like if you think about it, like if Friends was made today, it'd be a more diverse cast.
Oh no, for sure, yeah. But when
Yeah.
when it's giving this like idealized view of liberal blah blah blah, you expect a little bit better of it. I think that's the dissonance.
Maybe, I don't know. It feels a little bit like it's more recent than 99, where we've seen more people of color in White House.
Oh no, for sure,
you know,
yeah,
senior White
yeah.
House stuff.
But like say the
You know,
Clinton White
that-
House at the time was, very like it's not like it was there was no source for this.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe so. It's probably a bias on TV, really. I guess. Yeah.
I mean, it's something that to an extent gets corrected later. You get some more kind of rounded women characters, and you get some. I mean, I don't want to be too spoilery, but it does correct some of that. But I think it's there are problems with it, but we'd agree it's a good show, right? It's a well written show and well produced, and put together.
I can't side one way or t'other on a pilot. I'm gonna need to watch the full. I'll crack on with the first series before I
Reserve and
have any kind of fault. Because I feel like I feel like it it's such a like I'm still at that point where I don't want to like get in any way emotionally invested with anyone, because they could turn around and end up being a knobhead or something.
So your problem, because Stacey's like, I will die for this man after the pilot, and your problem,
I continue to.
You're cannonballing in, and Chris is tiptoeing in.
But your problem is that it's too easy
That's all right.
a figure to like.
It's too easy to like him.
They've presented him as like they lay the breadcrumbs, don't they? With the falling over on the bike, and they're sort of painting him as as maybe like a Boris Johnson-y type of character at this point. Someone who is I'm sorry, but But you're supposed to like sigh, roll your eyes at this character. Oh, it's going to be a buffoon that everyone's going to end up clearing up after. That's what they're kind of laying the groundwork for.
Oh, that's Josh Lyman.
That's interesting. I'd never even thought of it that way. That's interesting. Yeah,
and then you get so it's like everything's chaos, but the president is obviously notably absent for a lot of the pilot, which made it feel very piloty.
Yeah,
in a way, because you can only do that unveiling once, and they're really milking it. They're going to give.
Yeah, they're setting it up. They're setting up for him to show up. Yeah,
and they basically spend. But like you can't unveil the president like that on every episode, and every episode actually in reality it's just like 10 minutes at the end. But we've got to spend. Yeah, so they don't. So it feels a little bit like it feels a little bit like theatery, whereas and now. Our main event type of is the name that you recognize.
Is that he wasn't supposed to be the main event. Like Drew was saying, he wasn't supposed to be a regular person. We were supposed to be following Josh, Sam, CJ, and Toby, and all of them.
Yeah, he just shows up to clean up the mess, and then he's like, "I'm done. I'm moving on."
This is a bit of a side thing, but interesting. So Martin Sheen is Hispanic, right?
Okay.
He changed his name in order to get work back in the time when he started acting, but he isn't a Hispanic actor, but he's playing a white president, which I think is another. Is that them going? No, ridiculous. You can't have a Hispanic president. Ridiculous idea.
Can't do something different.
I was going to wonder, like, I was wondering based on the length of the unveil, how what about the president, how like that obviously is to be determined how much the president features in, obviously from your
point of view.
Yeah. No, I've completely forgot what I was going to say.
So your problems with the president, like Sorkin setting up these straw man arguments for this like daddy figure to come in and win, essentially.
Exactly. So it felt a little bit like they were just pouring it on a bit. But again, a lot of this has aged in a particular hindsight, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Like it I'm getting flashbacks watching it of Clinton, really,
Yeah, like earlier when we were talking about which president is he, I think he's non and an amalgam, right? Like a bit FDR, a bit Clinton, a bit whoever.
Yeah, he's got a bit more gravitas than Clinton.
Well, yeah. But I don't think he's any in particular. I don't think he's any president in particular.
No.
And I agree with Stacey. The one he's the most like, both in terms of personality and in terms of like what they actually get done, is probably Obama.
And a president that wasn't even president until way after the show ended.
Yeah.
That is fascinating to think that, again, with the lens of hindsight, that that West Wing may have shaped some of the attitudes of people in the White House than vice versa.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely some FDR stuff in there which will come out later. I don't want to give spoilers. But yeah, so for you, the president figure in the pilot, it's too easy. It's too easy. Like you're meant to like him, and it's virtually impossible not to, and that's what you're objecting to. But what about the staff? You said you don't really like it because Stacey will back up on this. I love Josh.
They're a bit.
I love Josh and I love Toby and I like the others to some extent.
Toby was like my number one in the pilot. I was like, that man, I freaking love him because he's the guy who plays him. He's always been one of my favorite actors. Like that man in The Good Doctor is fantastic.
Oh, I've not seen that.
And it's really I'll add it to the list for you. But Toby, because he's very kind of like he comes off like he's being quiet, but when he does talk, it's very pointed and it's very like, this is what needs to be done. This is what's happening.
I think with Toby, you get the sense that he's got this righteous indignation just bubbling. I think he's the most morally centered character, and he's got this righteous indignation bubbling under the surface. And even in the pilot, you see that when he's talking to Josh, and he's like, "No, please go on the show. Please go on the show." And then he breaks, and it's like, because you're calamitous fucking, yes. And it comes out.
But that will come up a lot more with like his like the tension inside of him that just kind of like pops out like, in future episodes.
Is that a little bit of
how he lets it break out in terms
How he
of
lets it
channeling
come
it?
out.
Do you think that could possibly be like a surrogate audience point of view? The thing that you're yelling at the
No, I don't think
the
so. No. I think with Toby, it's Toby is the one. I mean, I guess maybe he's the one who always wants to do the right thing regardless of the cost. And then Josh is the
Right.
one whose job it is to. He's the real politic dude. He's the one who's like strategizing and we'll make sacrifices in order to blah 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 blah. But and those two together, I love both of them, and it's who you identify with, who you would want to be, right? I think I love Toby the most, but I would want Josh's job because that seems like the most fun.
Yeah.
That's going to be quite interesting. I think how that fleshes out over season 1 could be really good.
But I would say a lot of the things that you're having problems with, I think, are characteristic of the way Sorkin does things, and it's going to be interesting to see how you cope with that going forward because there is a lot of setting up arguments so that you can win them,
and also wisecracking. The wisecracking was just laid on just quite thick. It's a superficial thing I could probably look past, but like everyone's just so snapback, and
sassy, yeah,
sassy, great word, yes.
Smart,
and that's that feels a little bit stylistic of the times as well.
Yeah,
so
that's very much of the time. Yeah,
it felt like it was a real snapshot. Even the soundtrack being like, I mean, I've seen Robert Redford films with very similar stuff in the early 90s, but with a little bit more saxophone. And the saxophone, while still there, fades out a little bit as the years go by when it comes to that kind of like, it's like glamorous American type of like, if you want to portray something in a positive light, there's that kind of 90s.
Well, it's American patriotic music is always marches, right? It's marches. It's got that bit. It's militaristic.
See, when with the West Wing, it was very much the. I mean, there's still saxophone now, like that.
I don't know if it's a saxophone. Is it? I'm not good with instruments.
Could it be clarinet? Maybe.
I think it's more. It's got the. I mean, a lot of the American political aesthetic still relies on like symbology of the Revolutionary War, right? The drums, the drum lines, and the fifes, right? The pipe things. I think I hear a lot of that.
I'm thinking more of the I mean, there's a lot of it, and it's also through a lot of the dialogue.
What do you mean in the dialogue?
Like, there's a lot of music over the dialogue.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember whether that's. I mean, again, it's of that era where it's got an actual. I don't know whether it's like a real orchestra, but it's got that like orchestrated like soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if that carries through as strongly. It's got those little sort of signature bits between scenes, which sets emotionally prepares you. This is going to be a whimsical scene, or this is a serious scene. It's got that going on. But I don't think it's as forceful as it is in the pilot. I hadn't noticed till you mentioned, but it is very forceful. The musical stuff in the pilot is very
But like you say, I don't know. This could it could soften over the pilot. The pilot. It's putting in a lot of information in a relatively short amount of time, so it's going to use every trick in the book it is to like get the audience where they need to be as soon as they can in a scene, right? Hence, heavy-handed music.
Yeah, I think the next couple of episodes aren't ones that I particularly enjoy. So,
okay, good.
Not that they're bad. I enjoy all of the West Wing. Honestly, there's only a few episodes that I outright dislike, but they're not. It's two of my least favorites, I would say, before it gets into more interesting stuff. I think it's at its best when it's the most procedural, when it's dealing with. Anytime it's about the president dealing with very big issues, it's at its least interesting. When it's the staff trying to work out how to get something relatively small, I say relatively small, it's on a big scale because it's the White House, but trying to work out how to get something. When there's an episode that's about a particular vote and trying to like wrangle everybody to vote their way, kind of thing, and that's the kind of episode I enjoy the most, I think.
Nice. Okay, that'd be interesting. Yeah, I did get a little bit of American, but the thick of it vibes.
But the thick of it is way more cynical.
Oh yeah, way more cynical, way more vicious,
And
way more dark.
True.
Oh yeah, like this is like the thick of it that you could watch in the daytime type of thing, but in America.
I mean, okay, so people who've worked in the White House and worked in the West Wing and stuff, they often say like, "Oh, the West Wing is like very accurate," and I think that's partly true. I think Sorkin gets right like how stuff works. You know, how the Senate relates to the White House, to the presidency, like how these things relate to each other. I think he gets that stuff right. But it's the most idealized view of that, right? Whereas I've watched other shows. I think I tried to watch Madam Secretary, and it's like, I'm not American. I don't know that much about American politics, but I know enough to know that it doesn't work like that. like so many political shows get that stuff wrong. Yeah, and I think in terms of how it really is, I think the thick of it is probably the most accurate. But then Armando Iannucci went on to write Veep, which is got an equally kind of cynical take.
I'm not familiar with Veep.
I just saw Stacey's.
Is Julia Dreyfus, right?
Yeah.
Julia.
Your mouth.
When you said in the thick of it, I was like, Peter Capaldi. Freaking love that show.
Oh, the thick of it.
Oh my god, yeah! Because I remember you not knowing who Peter Capaldi was before when he got cast for Doctor Who. So you ended up watching all of the thick of it.
I ended up watching the thick of it, and I was like, he's amazing.
I love.
He was really nice.
Have you watched the movie, the thick of it?
Yeah.
What's it called? I can't remember what it's called.
In the Loop,
yeah, which is essentially about the run up to the Second Gulf War, right? And the fabrication of evidence to justify it.
He's a really nice man.
Oh
wow! Break it out.
It was really funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm not sure. I was going to say I'm not sure America could take a show that's as cynical as The Thick of It, but then there is Veep, which is, the American version of The Thick of It. But I don't think it is quite as. It doesn't make the politicians look quite as incompetent as The Thick of It does.
No.
I don't know. That's an interesting thought. I think everyone's a lot more cynical nowadays than they were in '99.
I mean, some very big things have changed since the West Wing started. They addressed this. 9/11 happens during the run of the West Wing, and the show actually changes tone afterwards, which is a real shame. So there's 9/11, which changed the way people look at. I think in the 90s, people were less supportive of the military in America than probably any point in their history since the 60s. But then 9/11 happened, and you got this thing about like I don't support the war, but I support the troops, which is like fucking nonsense. You can't support the troops and not support the war. It's the same goddamn thing. I understand the sentiment, of course, but no, you can. It's okay to not support the military. Anyway, so you got 9/11, which changed things, and then the 2008 banking crisis, and then Trump. You could not make a West Wing show now. In fact, what you could make now is House of Cards, which is like the literal mirror image of the West Wing. It's the most cynical take on,
Yeah.
So what did you guys think about Sam Seaborn and his dealing with Lori? He didn't know, like, that whole thing. That's one of the first impressions that we get of Sam, is that, oh shit, he went out with the call girl. Oops.
I don't know. I'm completely not sure about what. Yeah, like with Josh and Kobe.
He tries to teach the class about the White House.
That bit's genuinely enjoyable.
Making it up as he
goes. That bit. Yeah. Is he? Are we? How much are we supposed to like this guy? This guy feels irritating.
I agree. I don't dislike him, but he does irritate me.
Are we supposed to be? Is he like? I mean, I don't know if that matters.
I think you are supposed to like him, though. I think you're supposed to. He's supposed to be a sympathetic character.
Right. Okay.
But what's your read on?
To be fair,
as the
lady here. Well, yeah, the situation sucks, but to be fair, as the lady here, like, I mean, he was like the fine character. Like, yeah, Josh is cute, but also like I was like, oh my god, Rob Lowe. Because
yeah. I mean,
that's Rob
Lowe
Lowe.
is an incredibly
The handsome
handsome
son of a
human
beast.
being.
And so I think like he was supposed to be the one that like everyone was like, oh, Sam, but he's so handsome, he can't be in trouble,
But I think it's
in
interesting
every
that
show, there's always that character. They're like, they're so sweet and they're so cute. You can't be mad at them.
Can't hold on to his pager.
it's interesting that they so he's clearly the handsome heartthrob Hollywood actor,
Joey Tribbiani.
but they didn't. They could have like if they'd given him the Josh role, that would have made more sense on the surface. They made him kind of like naive, well-intentioned, naive. I think that's an interesting way.
I can't see him as Josh though. I can't see Rob Lowe being.
No, I
Josh's
can't
character.
at all. No, not whatsoever.
At all.
No. Well, Rob Lowe doesn't do anger well, and you need to do anger well to play Josh.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that yeah, he sleeps with a sex worker, and the implication is that could be disastrous for his career. And first of all, he's the deputy communications director. I don't think it'd be that big. Can any of us name any deputy communications director from any White House?
Deputy communications
director. Like, I don't think it would be. It wouldn't even be a front page story if.
For a minute there, I thought you were going to ask, can you name any politicians that have been caught with a sex worker? Of which I can. Jerry Springer.
Well, in a way, like yeah. This is just America catching up with Europe, which they've done with Clinton. Finally, a presidential sex scandal, right? But I think it's also interesting that it's so the Rob Lowe character is the one that has the sex scandal in inverted commas, and Rob Lowe himself in the 80s had a sex scandal. And so I don't know how much of it is informed by that.
Probably not. I
mean, they can't have been unaware.
Back to the 80s on that. I mean, not unaware, but I don't think he'd be all like, well, I cast Rob Lowe as Sam Seaborn, so I might as well put him in a sex scandal.
No.
I don't think that Sorkin did that.
Yeah.
And there's also a lot of people with sex scandals.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not, I mean, throw a rock, really.
And he tells the granddaughter, like, right out loud, too. He's like, I'm having a bad day. And but it actually is her. Like, he thought she was in the classroom, but it's actually the teacher.
Which is a good little... There's a lot of farce-style humor in The West Wing, actually. That's an example of it. It's very French. Was it an 18th century farce kind of feel to it? Telling the wrong person the wrong thing in the wrong room and then rushing from room to room and, But yeah, a sex scandal in the White House post-Trump, I think, would not be a big deal at all.
I mean, no.
It was a huge deal with the Clinton. Full got impeached for it.
I think it was a huge media deal, but I don't think it changed the people who I think hyperbole. All of the people who supported Clinton before the Monica Lewinsky thing supported him afterwards. The kind of people who vote Democrat don't give a shit about that. The kind of people who vote Republican, A, they can weaponize it, and B, to an extent, they care about it. But they're voting Republican anyway, so it doesn't matter.
To an extent until 2016, and then they didn't give a crap about it at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I mean,
there
was that. I think it was one of the primary debates with Trump where he literally said, with cameras pointing at him in a debate situation, I could walk down Fifth Street in New York and
down
shoot
Fifth
somebody.
Avenue.
Yeah,
and shoot somebody.
Shoot somebody, and my supporters wouldn't care, and he was right. And I kind of wish, this is part of the frustration watching The West Wing, I wish these fictional characters from the 90s would realize that, like, the media stuff doesn't matter that much. If you get good stuff done, the little media things, they don't really matter that much.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what, but if we're talking about if the West Wing is kind of like the Clinton White House, then the media stuff did matter, like, a lot.
I think it only mattered to the extent that they made it matter, and like I say, like with the impeachment stuff, I think it mattered to the media more than it mattered to voters. People love to read about it, especially the sex scandal stuff. People love to read about it.
I think that's where the conflation lies. I think people like to read about it. I don't. Yeah, but people vote on. Well, I think to be honest, I want to say cost of living today, if nothing else. I would say that was the biggest voter issue.
I mean, it's not like Clinton had. Well, it was broadly known that Clinton had sexual dalliances before, and he got reelected a second time. During his 1992 campaign, it came out. The first sex scandal came out with I forget her name, but she was a hairdresser who wrote. I think one of the tabloid newspapers paid her a lot of money to sell her story, and she talked about
I think I know who you mean, but I don't want to say her name in case I get a wrong person who gets.
That was during his presidential campaign, right? And he got elected. Like I don't think it matters. I think Blair and Clinton in the 90s, they were all about like message, and they really thought that like any tiny mishap in the media was like deeply devastating, and I don't think it was. I don't think it was ever as bad as they thought it was.
It's a little bit like when people say Twitter's a big deal.
Yeah,
in reality, not very
there's
few
only
people.
like it's just a bunch of people that are all in the same place talking to each other. Like,
who do you know that you speak to on a day-to-day basis that still regularly tweets? Even before Elon Musk took it over, like the number of people that I personally knew who actually posted things on Twitter, least of all interesting things. Sometimes it was just a political opinion or something that they were just farting out. But like, it was hardly anyone. It really was hardly anyone. But of course, it's who's on Twitter. Like, so it's because Twitter becomes the media bubble, right? You've got journalists that are on it, and you've got politicians that are on it. And then there are probably like people from various peripheral, like, so you might have entertainers, celebrities, and that kind of thing, but not normal people. So it became the celebrity media bubble.
Yeah.
So it feedbacks on itself, right? So the media make a big deal about something, so politicians then take that and learn from it, and then become more cautious next time, and the content that politicians provide feeds the media, and the media then sort of feeds the politicians. Especially with Twitter, where if you are a politician, like, you're going to be seeing a substantially more amount of media if you do use Twitter.
And that's bang on, yeah. And I think what's the name, the BBC's political correspondent?
Laura Kuenssberg.
Laura Kuenssberg, who people, jokingly people refer to her as the Twitter correspondent now, which I think is accurate. But it's a similar feedback loop to since pretty much all news organizations, the BBC notably, have like cut back on investigative journalism, right? So they break fewer novel stories. So what they tend to do is report on whatever the newspapers are saying. And this is in a climate of newspaper ownership, shrinking and shrinking. Fewer and fewer and fewer people are owning all the newspapers. So essentially, you've got like our state broadcaster broadcasting about what Rupert Murdoch thinks. It's like that's the news. Yeah. It's either what's on Twitter.
Think about like how fast whatever is news becomes old news and forgotten about.
Yeah.
And like that's what happens, right? It's just a machine to generate news for attention, and then by the time something new happens, they just have to keep.
I mean, that's a relatively
how much of it actually creates change via certain outcomes.
Very little.
Exactly.
It's a 20.
It's just an attention grabber. That's all it is.
Since the advent of 24-hour rolling news, it's it's feed the beast type stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. It's just attention's money.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that sort of the Clinton era politicians being so media surrounded by it is almost like the worst thing you could do is something silly on television. I think now with in the age of social media, where most politicians have a cringe reel.
It's like that idea. There's this idea in the media that Ed Miliband lost that election because he ate a bacon sandwich wrong. You know what I mean? Which
how do you calculate that? Though?
I think those things come to symbolize, and I think this is the way it works in the public imagination as well. Things like that come to symbolize something they already believe about that person. Like if your idea is that person is out of touch and they don't understand blah blah, then something like that can encapsulate that and become the symbol for that. But I don't think it.
Yeah, they're looking for like every reason to attach to that belief with stuff that happens. But think about it too. Think about how in sync everybody was when TV was around and there's only a few channels on television, and now like people aren't that in sync anymore. Like you can't make a show like MASH now. Like you can't get that many people in sync.
No, for sure. Yeah.
Now is MASH the world record for number of people watching a TV finale or something at the same time?
I think it is. Yeah, I think.
Yes.
I have to look. I don't know the numbers, but I think it is like the last mass in sync number TV show. Like,
Because I'm sure more
Which is
people
insane,
maybe
'cause-
watch the Super Bowl or something. That's the most. Is that usually the most? That holds records, doesn't it?
I
Super
don't
Bowl.
know. I don't think
Not
so.
really.
I mean, I guess
You got really off
A lot of
topic.
people.
the Super Bowl is American only, really, right? Nobody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas the moon landing was, people bought TVs for the moon landing. Nice. Actually, as part of my sort of general cultural preparation for doing this, I watched the
The
live
number of
coverage.
people. Here it is. The number of people that watched the MASH finale 35 years ago was 106 million people.
A lot of people.
And the most watched Super Bowl, I don't know.
Oh my god. Oh. Australia, I'm disappointed in you. The most watched thing on Australian television is the death and state funeral of Liz 2.
Okay, Super Bowl's close. Super Bowl.
Has the
the last
coronation
one
happened
and-
yet?
The last one was 112 million people.
This
So
weekend.
Oh, okay.
yeah, so right about the Super Bowl, Chris. I mean, in 2022, the Super Bowl is 112 million. So,
Mm.
but that's not like one
Oh.
channel. That's like multiple.
Yeah, no, I
different
mean what
sources.
you're talking
You know, it's
about
like-
back in the day is everybody watching the same channel at the same time.
Yeah,
and then,
you don't have that. You
talking
don't have
about
that
it.
small spectrum anymore. Like there's so many
Yeah.
mini markets now.
I mean, apart from anything else, the cultural impact of that is huge. When everybody at school
Yeah.
or work or whatever, the next day, everybody's talking about. Did you see that episode of Because that's the only
Yeah.
time you get before VHS and
Mm.
DVD. That's the only chance you get to see it.
That's what I really liked about Game of Thrones. I think I almost feel like it was maybe the last show where you had that, where it was like you would talk to people in the normal world out there with the normal people.
Water cooler conversations.
The small talk and the human interaction conversations. That
Well,
you
now
have.
people do this. Now
Yeah.
people go online and
And
talk about
yeah, I
it.
feel like last.
We can't. I
time,
mean,
feel
yeah,
like-
part of what we're doing here is emulating that, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
we
basically.
actually want to talk about it. We're not like forcing coworkers
on a-
to talk about something.
on
They don't want to talk about.
On a personal, subjective level, I hate that. Like as a compulsive binge watcher, if I decide I want to watch a show, I want to watch the entire show in the next 3 days. Like I do not want to the shows that
I
I'm
get that
watching where I've got to
impulse.
wait for them. I hate it.
I like it. No, I'm
If I
totally,
if
I'm
I talk
totally-
if it's like this and I'll talk about it, I'll do it. But normally, we've been watching Curb Your Enthusiasm.
No, I
We're
can't.
almost done.
I don't
We
like the
to
binge watch because, take for example, The Witcher that comes out on Netflix. I really like that. You watch it in a weekend, it's fucking gone, and you forget all the bits of it as well. Like if you watch it.
Oh no,
week
see,
over
I'm a
week, I-
compulsive binger, but also a compulsive rewatcher. So if I enjoyed it, I can watch it 5 more times through.
You'll go back
Yeah.
again and look at it when you think about it.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
There's benefits
don't know.
to both,
I like
but-
talking about it as the story unfolds. I guess that's the
Well, we can do
Yeah.
that with The West Wing, and so far
absolutely.
you hate it.
Give it a chance, Chris. It's just
I'm
a
gonna give it
pilot.
a chance.
It's just
I'm gonna give it a
Mr.
chance.
Pilot.
The
Don't
thing
put
is,
all the show's pressure on Mr. Pilot.
like, I've got a lot of criticisms of The West Wing, but like a lot of these people in The West Wing have come to represent everything that was wrong with politics at the time for me. But I still
Yeah.
I love the show.
I mean, maybe I just got to come.
Well, no, I was going to say I love
the
the show, but everything you're saying is right. Like you're not. I don't think. I think Stacey has seen more of it. I think she'd agree, right?
Wait till you get to that. Wait till we get to the finale.
yeah.
How many
For
seasons
season
is this?
one.
How many seasons is this show?
7.
Evan,
Okay,
Seven.
a little bit of a
The-
spoiler.
the finale for season 1.
How can a show with that many
It's really
episodes
good.
be like end well?
22
no, it does actually.
episodes
It
in the
does.
first season.
Spoilery.
Oh, so it ends.
So at some point, Sorkin leaves, right? And it's generally agreed that it
Oh.
gets.
Because
It gets
after it's in season 4. is when
I
he
think
leaves,
so,
right?
Yeah, when does he?
Four,
When
yeah.
does he leave?
so.
Mm.
And it's generally agreed that that it gets it becomes a weaker show after that. But some of my favorite episodes are actually in that period. But it's generally seasons. Is it 4 and 5 or 5 and 6? Generally agreed to be the slump. But the tail end of 6 and 7, I think they're actually some of my favorite. In fact, I would say those are my favorite episodes. That for me, they're better than the early ones.
Cool.
Yes, but you also say that the newest version of the newest game in the Deus Ex series is the best one ever made. So, like,
So you're still skeptical.
yeah, I'm not saying you're dead wrong because it's not the worst one. Maybe I don't know. I like them all, but whatever.
We'll just have to keep watching.
But like, that's quite a unique. That's quite an unique, not a unique opinion, but like minority opinion.
It's been a while since I played any of them now, so I'm not sure how much I stand by my own opinion there. But I think it's right.
It's not crazy, but it's also not
not right.
It's not what you make up a very small slice of that pie chart. No, but not a zero. And also, by the way, I really like Invisible War, and I'm wrong on that one. So
I think most people do. It was poorly received, but most people who enjoy Deus Ex games enjoy Invisible War. Anyway, let's not talk about Deus Ex and the West Wing thing.
Tangent.
We've gotten off topic a lot.
We have.
Yeah, that's fine. It's going to be interesting to see how you take it as we go on. Should we? I think just for fun, I think it's fun to like give each episode a rating.
All right, let's do a rate. Should we come up with? Do you have like something that we can put into a league table?
We could do it. We could give it a number of electoral college votes.
Okay, great.
That doesn't work.
What about like flags or something?
Not well.
If you promise me a job, I'll vote at 10.
What should our measure rating metric be?
Yeah, is it a scale? So sorry, do you say 1 to 5 electoral college votes?
Let's go 1 to 10. Let's do 1 to 10. Let's do the
1 to
rather than
10.
anything. It's fun to do something.
It
makes less sense.
We give it Wyoming Electoral College for like a 1, and then like California for like a 10.
So we give it a number of states that add up to a
Give it a number of states.
I'll give this one. This one was California. But no, it wasn't.
That's a big one.
It's a great pilot.
It's a Rhode Island
pilot. It's such a good introduction to the show.
What if
It's a
we
great
like rated it by
California.
rated by choosing a state?
Yeah.
It gets 55 electoral college.
Okay, no, this is a great idea. We give it a state based on how many electoral college votes there is.
Oh, okay, right. So.
I'm gonna find us a map.
So much effort put into rating.
It's gonna be great, Matthew.
And then somebody's going to keep a record of this. Okay, I need
We
a
can only
picture.
choose. We can only choose.
Oh, okay, so
I need a picture that's got both the number of electoral college votes and the name of the state.
Electoral college votes by state.
Yeah, I'll stick it.
Do you need a picture? I have a list.
I'll stick it in chat. There you go.
Hold on. Okay, so yeah, let's say so the lowest number is 3. We'll pick one of the states. So I'd say, like, why don't we for like a 1? Let's just do like Alaska. Like Alaska's the worst. California's the best because we have 55.
So our scale goes.
And then like somewhere in the
3
middle,
to 55.
3 to 55, and there's multiple options
and
for
then
3.
somewhere, yeah.
And there's
so
like
somewhere
no
in the middle
17.
is like somewhere in the middle is like New York,
Florida,
at 29.
Texas.
Oh.
Okay.
Man, we don't have we don't have enough states for all these episodes.
Which one's so is MT Minnesota?
No, MT is Montana.
Montana. What is MO?
Missouri, right?
Missouri. Okay, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Really
This is not a very smooth scale. We've got like 55.
It's not a smooth scale.
Yeah, but like so California is the top. Like California's like this is a great episode, and then like Alaska's the bottom.
Did you know a little fact?
I would say if we were going for the bottom, it would be like Texas or Florida, but they have a pretty good amount of electoral college votes. So
yeah, we gotta be consistent with our.
California's top. Like Alaska's the bottom.
I'm going to give it a Connecticut. I think.
Okay, right.
Really?
Connecticut.
7.
Connecticut.
7.
Yeah, like that. Is that a middle number? Is that a middling number? God, they can really only.
That's not a.
No, not from 3 to 55. That's not middling.
No.
Like you want to give it like a Georgia or an Illinois.
No, because the thing is, it's like California and Texas. They just go fucking off the chart.
Yeah, those got really good episodes.
You've got Pennsylvania, New York, Virginia, North Carolina. If you want something middling, I'm not telling you how to vote.
Which one's VA? What's VA again?
Virginia.
Virginia.
Oh right, of course. All right, maybe Virginia.
13.
13, yeah. Oh, there's a lot that are less than that. I don't know. That's the thing. I'm trying because the thing is, I think there are going to there are almost certainly going to be episodes I like more than this.
Yeah, you got to leave yourself room.
Mhm.
Yeah, I feel like I've got to leave.
Okay,
a lot of them.
okay.
I feel that a pilot is very limiting. I don't really,
Yeah.
I'll give it like an
Indiana. Where are we? Okay. Okay.
11. Okay.
Stacy.
Yeah, but see, the thing is, I liked it so much, and it really. I
give
finished
it a
the
higher
first
one.
season. I finished the first season in like a week. I just sat here and I was like, "Let's go!" Click, click, click. And I finished it real fast. And then the second season, I kind of slowed down because it was making me sad. So, but I don't know. Pilot, probably a Texas. Give it a Texas.
Maybe I can find
Texas,
like a scale map of the Electoral College is like in a line.
So I think episode 1 is a very good pilot for the West Wing, but I don't think it's a particularly good West Wing episode. So judging it as a West Wing episode rather than a West Wing pilot, I'll give it an Ohio.
What's
That's 20.
20. Okay.
Okay, interesting. And
Really
sorry,
glad
I
we
gave
figured this
it 13, right?
I think so.
Yes.
Virginia.
And that was Virginia. That's it.
Yeah.
I like the sliding scale.
So
yeah, I was trying to see if there was like one that has like all the states in a graph or something, so we could see.
Tangentially related to this, the other day I was reading about the 1920 U.S. general election, right? And in the 1920 U.S. general election, if you're looking at the map, like so, Texas, Arkansas, Kentucky, North Carolina, the Democrats won everything south of that. So the Democrats got the vote in the South, and the Republicans got everything else, the North and the two coasts, which is like so opposite to the way it goes now. I thought that was interesting. And also,
did it go quickly? Did it?
It's complicated, and this is part of why. So again, in that election, the Republicans got 90% of black people who could voted for Republican.
Wow.
Because that's coming off the back of, Lincoln was a Republican. The Republican Party was kind of the party of, that didn't really change until, the Southern, the Southern strategy. Anyway, that's political wonk stuff, but yeah.
Is that who was that? Was that Nixon or before Nixon?
Southern strategy was Nixon, yeah. Taylor Nixon, yeah.
He said the N-word a lot.
He did.
So, here's the list.
But I think interesting, Nixon, because Nixon was at the tail end of the the post-war consensus kind of, where politics was come FDR, all that stuff. Nixon, especially in terms of economic policy, was like way to the left of any Democrat now. Sanders and outliers aside. Nixon actually proposed a negative income tax on the bottom bracket.
Like almost like a universal basic income.
Kind of, means tested universal basic income. So not universal, but yeah.
Fascinating. No, that's amazing.
I kind of Nixon is kind of my favorite president.
What, just in that he goes so against expectations because
I think he's come to be like the villain president, the bad one, and I don't think he was even worse than the average. I think he was actually probably better than the average. It's just he got caught, right? But in terms of economic policy, he did quite a lot of lefty, or what perceived now as lefty stuff. And in terms of his, he used the N-word a lot, and he was partly responsible for the Southern strategy. But he voted for the equal rights stuff. I think he's complex, and I think that's interesting. I mean, just best FDR, obviously.
Yeah, of course. Cracking.
Sorry, I got very nerdy.
Well, that's good. I mean, this. To be fair, the political stuff is kind of the thing that I expect is going to be drawing me into the West Wing. That's the thing I found most interesting about it.
Mm-hmm. and there wasn't much of that in the first episode. There's going to be way more of that for you to get
Yeah.
into.
I did like the bit
It's
with the
just a start.
evangelical stuff at the end. That was kind of interesting, and I think that is where the pilot came together quite well. But then but it's
Sweet Caroline.
and then Martin Sheen got,
Parachuted in.
I think parachuted.
Big
in.
reveal.
I think they just over-egged that pudding a little bit, really.
I mean,
Big
the-
reveal.
the thing-
Big
like-
reveal. Superhero comes in to clean up the mess and then leave.
The line he comes in with is "I am the Lord your God." It's not like they didn't know what they were doing, right?
This is a very like Martin Sheen is a bit like, you're good, but you
Actually,
very much know.
Is part of this like an uncomfortableness with like the reverence that the presidency has in America, even maybe like up until Trump, I think in American political culture, like the office is respected, whereas you don't find that. So, like over here, there's not. We don't give a shit.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Maybe not as respected as it once was,
And-
but maybe
but
during that
it's-
time.
Yeah, not
More
so much
respect.
anymore.
Not so much now.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But
you
back
can't
then.
you
London-
can't watch the show as a 90s person again. You can't watch
Yeah, yeah,
The West Wing without knowing what
Well, I
happens
mean,
next.
some of that does still persist. I do think America has this
that's-
idea of, you know,
A lot of the issues that they talk about on The West Wing are still like being talked about, and it's
Oh,
still
yeah.
a whole
course.
thing now.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Like we're just watching it, and I'm like, geez, we're still fighting about this.
Well, it's like
Which
how
is
much
depressing,
does history?
right?
How much does history change?
It
That
is.
does it really change that much? You know, it's
Yes,
like
no.
does no.
stuff moves glacially
It's the same
slowly.
issues. Yeah, it
Yeah,
takes time.
that is one of the things I do. It felt a little bit like, we call it the culture wars now, but it was there then. I guess it was different language was used. Like today, everything is woke. Yesterday, they called it political correctness. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
it just evolves. The term, it's the same meaning, just the term just gets
but
argued over what
if you
defining the term
if you
is.
take an
Anti-woke.
adjustment for the if you take an adjustment for the language of the day, it does. There are bits and pieces that strike out as
Yeah, but that's
you said
I
yesterday.
think in terms of moving policy forward, very little has changed. You know, little things have changed. We're grateful for those, but very little has changed. And yeah, in terms of the accepted battlegrounds, the culture war stuff, and that, very little has changed. But I do think we're in a far more polarized political landscape, or whatever you want to call it, than
that's been
we're in that.
weaponized a lot more. Yeah.
No, I think
Like,
I mean,
whereas-
we had in the US a presidential candidate who was openly calling himself a socialist. That was unimaginable when the West Wing was made.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Well, technology is a part of that too. Like technology has aided that.
But I have heard that the decades after the Second World War were the anomaly. Like, I think liberals in particular have this idea of, we need to return to normal. We need to return to the Clinton era. We need to. There's an idea that was an anomaly, and usually things are way more unstable than that. And this is actually the normal. We've returned to the normal. Because if you look before World War II and around World War II, like people, again, way more. I mean, again, in that 1920 general election in the US, there was a Socialist Party running, right? That was a presidential candidate for the Socialist Party. That 50 years after World War II was actually the anomaly, and I think that holds up. I think.
That's interesting.
It depends on what people define
Possibly,
as normal.
because the thing is, there are a lot of things when it comes to democracy and whatever that kind of end up turning into an arms race, and an arms race tends to be pretty destructive, and therefore, like with the longer periods of what you think of as stability, and you might use words like some kind of like national unity or something. It might very well be the case that it's just a spirit of not wanting to rock the boat too much that lasted for like just a wave that lasted longer than you really thought it would have. But sometimes, particularly it's a little bit like a stupid person is losing an argument, so they decide to shout. Like it feels a little bit like politics can sort of end up in that way, because that's the Donald Trump thing. He escalates, and he basically plays the game of chicken with whoever he's playing it with. I can escalate this more dramatically than you, and he can because he's got no shame.
Well, yeah, it's like
Yeah.
who can be
That's why he
louder,
wins.
and how loud can we get? And then you rock the boat too much, then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, like maybe. But that was his consistent approach. You know, that's
I think that's always been a failing on the left. I think is the right are very good at using emotionality to get people on board, and the left always tries to use facts and figures to get people on board. Like
I don't want to be. I don't want to.
the emotion is necessary. Like the difference is the right are arguing.
yeah.
What's the word?
Rationally,
Their case
like,
is not sincere. The left's case is
Yeah,
generally
bad faith,
sincere.
yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with using emotionality and getting people on board emotionally. I think that's something the left has got to.
That's a very moral judgment, isn't it?
How do you
Because the thing is, well, if you're like, the underlying thesis is like, you have to argue to the truth, whereas people arguing in bad faith can just make up any old bullshit. As long as it hits the emotional notes, they can be a very they can obfuscate the truth in all manner of ways. I'm sure there's like I feel like there's a witty Winston Churchill quote about how about this in some way. It's like when you've got the truth on your side, you're stuck to that narrative because you can't manipulate it because the truth is
no, but you can find.
It's like wrestling with a pig in the dirt or something. You get dirty.
You can find the emotional resonance within it, right? You can find the story. You can find the You can present the emotional case, and the facts can come later. Like I think the emotional part is necessary, and the right are very good at it.
Yeah, but I think the one emotion that seems to be the most powerful is giving people a reason why they're not doing anything wrong, right? Like people just absolutely soak up the like it's a lot. You get it a lot with climate change.
It's like righteousness, like the person's
right. You are very pessimistic about humanity, though, and I'm very. I think people are fundamentally like compassionate, and like if you appeal to their compassion, I think that will work.
Yeah, but
they will mirror you if you yell.
Well, yeah, but like with. I mean, you get it a lot with the climate change arguments that like the ones that always like tend to be agreed upon are the ones that don't really encourage people to actually make any hard decisions. Plastic straws or something like that, you know.
Yeah, but I think that's also a recognition of the fact that like it's we need to change the fundamental political structure of the entire world in order to rectify anything else is pissing in the wind, right? Like that's
a big shopping list.
If only we could buy our way out of it, you know? If only we could solve climate change by paying money.
Yeah.
We got to put a price on carbon emissions.
Well, yes. Anyway, all right.
Should we wrap it up?
Yeah,
I think that's a good time too. I'm going to be interested to see how this goes because it does kind of hit a little bit like I suppose the 90s was a little bit of the beginnings of political awakening. It's you start noticing a little, a few things on the telly and all that kind of stuff. So I think, and as this goes on, I'm assuming it's going to be like a series a year or something like that. It moves forward in time, right? In response to
When's the end? What's the time period that the show wraps
99 to 2006.
Okay.
And
all right.
It obviously doesn't exist in the political reality of America at the time.
Oh, that's true,
literally,
right.
but but it follows. Like I say, 9/11 has quite an impact on the show.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, you look back on it, not only have you got the lens of what we feel is like Obama and Trump, who were two presidents that have, like definitely made their mark, so to speak. But also 9/11, which is like, I work with people who were born after 9/11. That's kind of crazy.
Isn't it weird?
Yeah,
that's how I always like.
So strange.
Every time I'm like, let me guess how old you are. Do you remember 9/11? They're like, no. I'm like, okay.
The sad thing about that is like people who are young or not born, like they don't get how much everything changed after 9/11. That's the thing. Like it changed. It changed culture. It changed. Art, TV shows became different in tone. It's had such a massive effect. Obviously, that wasn't its biggest effect. Like 1 million Iraqis dying was more important than that.
But just how it impacted on media.
Well, there's a lot of people like COVID for them will be the thing that changed. Like
COVID's one of those things.
COVID's going to be.
We don't know what
I do.
Yet.
Oh man, I know a few teachers, obviously through the course of my work and all that kind of stuff. And a few like the social skills of kids, like they reckon maybe about year 8ish. So that in numbers terms is what's year 8, like 13 13-year-olds, 12
Yeah.
13-year-olds. They're the ones that are going to be like the most severely hit by the lockdowns and COVID and stuff like that. And like apparently they're really struggling. That others have struggled as well, but like that's the spot where it seems like that's when you need to be around. You're socially developing in a lot of ways. Is right.
There's that stuff.
Teenagers, of course.
There's the socialization stuff. There's the home working stuff. People have realized, we can actually work from home. There's the labor stuff, the key workers and that. Like these strikes, I don't think could have happened before the pandemic. People, have now got a sympathy for the people who, run shops and run railways and NHS, health systems. Anyway, we're trying to wrap up.
And also, don't forget, because we've got to remember the weirdest part was when they did the christening with the squirty water gun.
That was great.
That was just amazing.
Use the tools you have.
We did that. That as a society was where we delved to with COVID.
Yeah.
Well, I realised we made a mistake at the beginning. We didn't say our names, so people don't know who's speaking at any given time. And the Americans might not be able to tell me and Chris apart. And so on. So, next time, let's remember that.
Well, if we say something now, actually, could you cut it? Could you cut it?
Yeah.
I am Drew. Hello.
I am Chris. Hello.
I am Matt. Hello.
I am Stacy. Hello.
Awesome. I'll cut that in at the beginning.
There it is.
And also leave it here as well.
You could also do.
How about if we each pick a president and talk? We do an impression of them while talking.
What?
Nope, we're out. Okay,
Like, wait, which one would I do?
Oh, who we? Okay, yeah.
I was in a drama class where we had to do a nursery rhyme as a presidential debate.
Wow.
I mean, and I was I did it off of Will Ferrell's Bush. I was like, hickory dickory dock. Mouse went up the clock.
I am not a crook.
Oh, you can't take Nixon.
Nixon's Drew's.
Nixon's my boy.
My boy, don't say that.
All right, I'm going to stop. Bye-bye.
All right,
cool.
Bye.
Farewell.
God bless America.
Everything to you.